Take. I'm your host, AJ Kierstead. NewEnglandTake.com to get more from the show. That is a Substack, a great way to get every episode into your inbox and support the program. Big thank you to WKXL every Saturday, 8:30 a.m. for picking up the show. GraniteGrock.com, Concord TV, AJ at NewEnglandTake.com if you want to reach out to me. Tell me what I got wrong, any tips, tricks, how to have less bad opinions, whatever it is you want to shoot over to me. AJ at NewEnglandTake.com is definitely the place to do that. Like and subscribe on YouTube. And as always, anything we discuss here today is in the episode description on any and all platforms that you find the show. 5 years. So I got to start off the show. So this you're going to start off, the show has reached 5 years. We're going to talk about the Southern Poverty Law Center situation a bit. We may talk about some socialists that had an opinion piece in the Monitor if I have enough time, but I want to start off with talking a little bit about the fact I've done the show for 5 years now, started on WKXL coming out of COVID in 2021 in that April, started off with Marty England of the nonprofit Music for Kids program, and the Continuum Collective, a big supporter of what they're doing over there, getting instruments in kids' hands. And it's kind of expanded from there to figure out what the hell it is I want to do with this show. It's turned into interviews and news and politics, which is kind of my passion when it comes to doing podcasting and things of that nature and radio shows. So it's been a blast. And over these last 5 years, it's been really interesting to see the media landscape shift and change over the span of the Biden years, the return of Trump, the just flailing about of local media has really been a unique experience coming out of COVID, because the pandemic really, I think, exploded a lot of opportunity when it came to non-traditional online media outlets. So I actually started the same month in April of 2021 as the New Hampshire Bulletin, NewHampshireBulletin.com. I use their articles all the time on this show. Any legitimate media person in the States is pulling up the reporting over there. Dana Wormwald is the editor-in-chief of that outlet, and he's got 3 reporters. Ethan DeWitt's been there since the start. Big congratulations to those guys for making it so long, because State's Newsroom is their mothership, and they started at the right time. There's no way around it. Coming out of COVID, the newspaper industry was in absolute dire straits, and it was time for a shift. Over the last few years, we've seen all sorts of newspapers continue to fall, and more local papers, the ones that have survived so far, are now able to syndicate these other outlets that kind of centralize it. Unfortunately, the funding is a little... I'm not a huge fan necessarily of the State's Newsroom. Is very much a Democratic operation with all their opinion pieces statewide or countrywide, because this is a countrywide organization, are definitely Democrat funded. But on the other side, especially on a more independent streak, is NH Journal. They've really been able to succeed over the last few years. I had no idea they existed before COVID. They've been around for a little bit, and Chris Maidment was over there, and I didn't even know at the time. And it's been great to see what NH Journal, New Hampshire Bulletin, In-Depth NH is still out there. I've had Nancy West on the show. There's the Ink Link down in Manchester, and I believe they've expanded into Nashua. Online outlets are the future. I mean, it seems like a boomer thing to say it that way, but there was genuine doubt as to where the media landscape was going to go, and it's definitely these outlets, which is great to see. And who would have thought a decade ago that email was going to be the thing? Because think about, like, for me personally, I get like 4 or 5 daily news emails from various outlets. I get the NH Journal, I get New Hampshire Bulletin, Pirate Wires, which is a blast to follow. You should check that out. The Concord Monitor, because that's my hometown. It is what it is. And the Patch. You got to talk about the Patch, too, in this equation. Tony Schinella, who runs it for New Hampshire, and he's based out of Concord, I believe that's still his primary focus, but he runs the Patch for the state of New Hampshire, which was owned by Yahoo. I think it's still an affiliate of Yahoo. But having that hyper-local content that's able to just be published on the spot, I mean, Facebook is what really makes the patch succeed. But then you get these email blasts twice a day with what's going on right here, super local, crime, there's this accident or that accident, something like that. It's good to know. It's good to know. It's good to see trends, and it's good to see that this sky is falling mentality not necessarily come to fruition. It came to more a shift. This is what we're going to see with the AI stuff. AI is definitely going to be a shift moment. There will be industries that are shuttered because of it, probably. I don't catastrophize it like many others do. I think AI is going to be a tool just like anything else, just like the internet revolutionized everything. Social media revolutionized everything. Me being in this media landscape wouldn't exist for social media. Yeah, I was connected with a radio station, but if you're not out there online, in addition to being on a radio station, no one knows about you. It's cool, but it's a very limited audience. And because of having this online audience, being able to have a Substack, which is free, anyone can go and start a Substack, it's democratizing the media landscape in a very positive way. It's confusing for the layperson if you're not really plugged into how just what's in the ecosystem that you exist in geographically. I can understand the confusion of it 100%. If you live in a big city or something, it's got to be a nightmare. And if you're living in like super rural, New Hampshire's pretty damn rural, but we're small enough geographically where if you're in the North Country, the Bulletin and Journal and things in depth is going to have relevant information for you. It can be an issue, but anyone can now go and just start whatever. Just do it on the side. Write a couple articles a month. Just get something out there. If you have a passion for writing or doing any of that, go do it. It's been really interesting to see the union leaders, the statewide paper in the states, and the Monitor is up there. Really, their op-ed sections really showing a bit of both sides, which is good. I've been published a handful of times in their opinion sections, and that's a great way where anyone who is a decent writer and can put a relevant argument together or opinion together can get it out there more. The paper industry is still here. It's struggling. It's going to continue to struggle with the collapse of classifieds and things of that nature. But I think we're going to make it through this. I always feel like I'm a hopeless optimist sometimes, and then I turn around and make fun of the terrible politics. But when it comes to the nature of our communities and where we're going as a country, we're going to figure it out. You're going to make it through this. We're all in this together, and it will be okay. So 5 years, I was hoping I'd still be going along, but I'm still publishing episodes every week. If this is the first time you checked out the show, literally, I've been doing these episodes every single week, basically, since April 2021. I missed a few episodes here and there, but it's important to keep the momentum going, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it. I'm having fun doing it. I'm going to continue to have fun doing it. These ranting at the camera episodes, the interviews and things of that nature, I'm going to continue to dive into education funding. I'd like to start diving into property taxes and the cost drivers there. It's something I've been talking about forever when it comes to education, but property taxes are the same thing, where we always talk about the numbers, but we don't talk about the why the numbers exist the way they are. And it's not just because of the amount of housing. There are things this money is paying for. It's going somewhere, but where is it? And I don't feel like anyone's really covering that, and that's disappointing. So stay tuned I'm hoping to get some experts that can dive into those sorts of things. But hey, we're going to be getting into the first in the nation primary here. We get past this midterm election here in November. It's going to be kicking off, because we're going to have a free-for-all when it comes to the presidency. It's going to be both parties duking out. I don't feel like either party really has their act together, and it'll be fun to follow and see what happens. Let's laugh through the chaos, because crying's for sissies. We're going to laugh. All right. Let's move over to some of the news. So this has been blowing up headlines this week. The Southern Poverty Law Center is in a bit of a bit of a pickle. The DOJ, Federal Department of Justice, says Southern Poverty Law Center funneled more than $3 million to white supremacist and extremist groups like the KKK. And at first when I saw it, I heard a bunch of the headlines around this, and I was like, is this some Trump nonsense? Is this just some garbage out there? No, it seems like they're doing a little fraudulent funneling of money in ways that I wouldn't suggest. So this is Fox News, but I also got an article here, and NPR covered what's going on here, but very fairly on both sides, in my opinion. But FBI Director Kash Patel and Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche announced a sweeping indictment Tuesday against the Southern Poverty Law Center, or the SPLC, accusing the far-left nonprofit of fraudulently paying members of extremist groups like the Ku Klux Klan. A grand jury in the Middle District of Alabama, very important that this suit is happening down there and not in D.C., because in D.C., nature of people having political minds and how they view the law and such, this is going to be huge for the DOJ if they can make this continue to stay down there. Returned an 11-count indictment charging the SPLC with 6 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of bank fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering, according to DOJ. Between 2014 and 23, according to DOJ, the SPLC, quote-unquote, secretly funneled more than $3 million in donations to 8 individuals. That's a lot of money. We're not talking... They spent $1,000 on a bunch of materials from some group to make sure they got it or something like that. This was somewhere around 8 individuals received $3 million. So it's the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK, if you don't know who they are. Good God. The United Klans of America, which is a KKK sort of thing. The Nationalist Socialist Movement, which is the neo-Nazi organization here in the state. Unite the Right, which was the Charlottesville protest, whatever it was, the Charlottesville situation back during Trump won. Aryan Nations, affiliated with Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club, and more. According to Blanche, SPLC paid members of these 3 extremist groups so it could create a work product that reported on these activities. And that's huge, okay? It's bad enough they're funneling all this money, but essentially, so there's been this, conservatives have been kind of running with this a little extreme, saying, hey, these organizations wouldn't exist without slimeball organizations like the SPLC. No, they would still exist. They still would have gotten everything they wanted, but it can't hurt to have this amount of money thrown their way, that's for sure. So the fact the SPLC is dumping so much money in these organizations they're allegedly out against, which idealistically they are. I will say that. They are true believers of the progressive left crazy movement, and that's a period. I don't think there's any doubt if you want to be honest about the situation beyond just bare bottom politics. The SPLC is a progressive organization that wants to push a race communism and that sort of stuff. It comes down to it's race-based politics and things of that nature, and supporting progressives. And we'll dive into one of the examples of, like, it's obvious their partisanship, but when it comes to this, it's really bad. It's really bad to be taking money from donors. They literally are accused of creating shell companies to funnel money around as if they are this vigilante organization or journalist organization. I don't know what they were thinking. This is unhinged that they thought this was a good idea. If you're creating shell companies for your activist organization, I hope you got some damn good lawyers, because you're going to have some issues. Because if you're funneling money to the KKK from a bunch of progressive lefties, you better have a really good argument for it, and you better have done it all above board, which it does not look like they really did. It looks like they committed fraud, and that is a big deal. So they're going to have to really pick up the pieces, and Blanche said to that, and the SPLC was doing the exact opposite of what it told its donors it was doing, not dismantling extremism, but funding it, during the press conference from Blanche. And it's crazy. So the SPLC of late, their relevance has really downgraded over the last 20, 30 years, fortunately. They definitely served an important role during the winding down of Jim Crow and things like that. I will not say they never had a place. They had a place back in the day. Their place has expired, though. Can we please stop respecting the SPLC? Oh, the FBI uses their this or that for... It doesn't matter. Some Democrat operative over at the FBI or in previous administrations were using their resources or investigations for things. If they have tips, they should be reporting those tips to the FBI, not funneling money through shady companies in order to get materials that they could then use against the KKK or whoever. I mean, I've been talking about, I in fact had, so granitegrok.com is actually listed on their hate map. The Constitution Party of New Hampshire is listed on their hate map. Their hate map is the thing that gets them the headlines the last few years. And it's a bucket of nonsense. It's totally ridiculous. If you look at the granitegrok.com, they literally will publish the other side. They let me be on there, so I am secondhand on the hate map, and I'm proud of that because I don't want the SPLC to like me. The Granite Grok, they don't like them because they're affiliated with the right. They're listed as a non-hate group or some silly classification, which just means they're a conservative outlet that they don't like. And if that's your standard for your hate map, you really jump the shark. And they have and ultimately they list the Constitution Party on there as a problem because they're a nationalist and they're a religious organization, religiously affiliated. The Constitution Party is blatantly Christian. There's no way around it. It's kind of the cornerstone of the National Party, especially. New Hampshire's a little more loosey-goosey when it comes to religion specifically, but it's very much a strong traditionalist values party. I think the Constitution Party does cool stuff. I had an op-ed published in the Union Leader and the Monitor talking about it. It's available at newenglandtake.com also. So I went to their annual meeting for the party. It was fascinating to see what they're doing. It's great to see a down-home little party putting a movement together here in New Hampshire, and the SPLC labels them in their hate map. So, and then they just list like churches that have the Latin Mass and things like that. It's obvious the SPLC should not be taken seriously, and like even NHPR did some fair reporting on what the indictment is, but let's move over to they actually, whoops, I messed it up. So they actually released a video response to
for 55 years
through the charges here. So this is Brian Fair. He's the interim president and CEO. By the way, I think that's important to note here also are the compensation. So if you didn't know this, ProPublica actually lists every nonprofit in the country's IRS reporting, so because it's public information, you can have it, and you can actually go in and see the 2024 tax filings for the SPLC, generating $129 million. So that $3 million kind of a drop in the bucket, but still a bad look. Pretty lucrative job to be the president and CEO of the SPLC. So this was the previous CEO and president, Margaret Wang. She made $466,000 plus an additional $55,000. Chief legal officer, $264,000. A high-functioning attorney, I guess that kind of sort of makes sense. Those student loans are expensive. But there is, let's see, over 200,000 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 people making more than $200,000, with the president and CEO making $466,000 for a nonprofit that's allegedly there to serve the people. Not a good look. The SPLC is just full of bad looks, but we'll continue here. Here's Brian Fair, the current CEO, responding.
Southern Poverty Law Center has stood as a beacon of hope, fighting white supremacy and various forms of injustice.
When they're not funding it.
To create a multiracial democracy where we can all live and thrive. We are therefore unsurprised to be the latest organization targeted by this administration.
I think you should be surprised when they unravel your schemes to funnel hate materials. I got that feel. Can I just wait a second? If these are their recruitment materials and such, how is it this hard to get this stuff? How hard is it that to not just find all the hate materials and show what evil these guys are doing? They're out there recruiting, probably, a lot of them, but I don't know, moving on.
They have made no secret of who they want to protect and who they want to destroy. For example, in October, FBI Director Kash Patel announced the Bureau would sever its ties with the SPLC.
Good.
And in December, House Republicans held a hearing to accuse us of being partisan and profitable.
If you're paying your CEO almost $500,000 a year, that's a good indication you're probably fairly profitable. And once again, going over to the SPLC's ProPublica information tax filings, revenue of $129 million with net assets of $750 million. I think you're fairly financially viable and successful.
The latest threat is the most serious: a criminal investigation and possible charges against the SPLC or some of our employees. Although we don't know all the details, the focus appears to be on the SPLC's prior use of paid confidential informants to gather credible intelligence on extremely violent groups. This use of informants was necessary because we are no stranger to threats of violence. In 1983, our offices were firebombed.
They literally have to go all the way back to 1983 to have this. Yeah. Should they have been firebombed? No. Was it still the unraveling of Jim Crow? Yes. This is not now.
And in the years since, there have been countless credible threats against our staff. For decades, we engaged in unprecedented litigation to dismantle the Klan and other hate groups. In light of that work, we sought to protect the safety of our staff and the public. We frequently shared what we learned from informants with local and federal law enforcement, including the FBI. We did not, however, share our use of informants broadly with anyone to protect the identity and safety of the informants
Which
and their
makes
families.
sense if you're doing this.
And while we no longer work with paid informants, we continue to take their safety seriously. These individuals risked their lives to infiltrate and inform on the activities of our nation's most radical and violent extremist groups.
I sincerely wonder if part of the leadership change over the last few years has something to do with this, and them realizing, oh, our little shell game of companies here could be problematic in the future. They screwed up. I mean, they screwed up bad. Like, regardless of how you feel about the SPLC, if the FBI has enough to make a case go to grand jury instead of just nonsense that doesn't go anywhere, as the Trump Kash Patel crew are renowned for at this point, you've really screwed up. And this isn't the first time they've had some really shady things go on. This is a lot more on the political side of things generally. But I want to go over to this little story here. They have a YouTube channel which features a bunch of things, and this is relatively recent. Georgia teacher talks about being suspended for Facebook posts about Charlie Kirk. And as soon as I saw this, I went, I think there's probably more to the story, but we'll start the video. It's only 2.5 minutes here.
So September 10th was the day of the assassination. To me, it was tragic because, Charlie Kirk was only 31 years old. I thought.
So this is Michelle Mickens, an English teacher from Oglethorpe County High School in Lexington, Georgia, on paid administrative leave.
About the quote that he had made after a school shooting where teachers and students lost their lives. And I posted it. It was mostly create a conversation about, gun safety in schools or, around kids, just gun control in general. And
we call this the CYA method of defense.
The fortunate idea that he proposed was that, sometimes sacrifices have to be made. Spent that evening, went to sleep, woke up, went to school, was called to the principal's office where I met with the superintendent, and they had said, look, somebody called. We don't know what they said, who they were, whatever. I noticed that I had a notification from Twitter that I was tagged in, and I said, I've been doxxed. Hi, my name is Michelle Mickens. I am a teacher in Oglethorpe County. I've lived in Georgia for 29 years. I still don't think that it was as serious as they made it out.
Well, it's really terrible. It's a bad look. You're a teacher and you're posting something like that. I'm sorry. It goes Yeah, you do have First Amendment rights and such, but if you're out there saying the things she said, so let's go over to the New York Post, because she did have her and her lawyers did a heck of a job scrubbing the internet of the original post. I could not find it, the original post offhand, but let's see, so the New York Post wrote an article about this, and I'm sorry about this, let me pull it up here. So she wasn't directly in trouble at first, but she posted a screenshot of her Facebook post on X along with phone number, so she was doxxed, which is never acceptable and should not have happened. So here's the quote: "I don't condone violence of any kind, and I certainly don't condone this, but he was a horrible person, a fascist full of hate for anyone who is different. While I'm sad that we live in a country where gun violence is an epidemic, the world is a bit safer without him." So when we talk about a bad look, I mean, here's example number 2 of, yeah, that's kind of a bad look if you're a teacher saying, hey, the world's better without this guy who was assassinated in front of his family and the whole world essentially on the internet. Look, you can have zero sympathy for someone who dies. That's on you or whatever. But to go out online and post something like that, I brought this up post Charlie Kirk, that the weights that are between certain people's legs are very, very large, and they unfortunately learned hard lessons accordingly for posting some of the stuff they did. If you're out there saying such things, that's just terrible. I would never go out there and celebrate the death of anyone directly. I may joke about certain individuals and such, but to get out there during a highly energetic political moment of the assassination of an activist that you disagreed with because he supports the Second Amendment existing, even though bad things are going to happen sometimes, you're going to have to defend yourself. Maybe you deserve to keep your job, maybe you don't, but should you be doxxed? Probably not. You should, maybe your workplace, if you're a public school teacher, a public servant, a public employee, maybe you get a couple phone calls about that. And the school's going to have to figure out what they want to do with it, because of the parents that are supposed to trust you with your kids see that you're celebrating the death of someone like that. It's really bad. And she said, well, not celebrating. Well, she's saying the world is a bit safer without him. A guy who spoke for a living, a man who never did violence. And this is the woman that the SPLC is out there defending. So if the SPLC doesn't survive this, good riddance. I'm hoping that this gets people in the middle of the political line to realize, hey, maybe we shouldn't trust these guys quite as much as we have in the past, because they got some shady things they got going on. Probably a bad look to funnel more than $3 million to around 8 informants over a few years, creating shell companies and such. I want to reinforce that is all a bad idea. I don't want to be supporting any criminal activity here on the show. I just want to make sure you're aware. It's a really bad idea to create shell companies and fund criminal organizations like a motorcycle club and such. But what do I know? I've just been doing a show here for 5 years. I want to thank you for checking out New England Take, NewEnglandTake.com to check out more of what I got going on. Hoping to get some more op-eds in coming weeks. Life's been a little crazy, but sun's out. Get out and touch some grass. You're going to see me out wandering about, maybe leaving this room a little bit more for some episodes, because we all need to experience the real world and get off the internet. And it's one of the fun things about this show is I get to speak to all sorts of different people. And if you want to reach out to the show, AJ at NewEnglandTake.com. Big thank you to WKXL for picking up the program. Saturdays, 8:30 a.m. Next up over there is Facing the Future by the Conquer Coalition. Big thank you to GraniteGrock.com, a guy who makes me secondhand associated with the hate map on the SPLC. Geez, Steve, you got to do something about that. And big thank you to Conquer TV, my hometown community television station, for picking up the program. NewEnglandTake.com. I'm AJ Kierstead, and we'll talk to you soon.